Heyo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Starting with a Story, the podcast. This is season 3, where we're interviewing people who are following their passions, whether it be full-time or on the side. And today I am so hyped and so glad that I got to connect with Gianna Ciaramello. And I'm super hyped to have her on today. And yeah, so I want you guys to meet her. Hey, what's going on, Gianna? How you doing?
Hi, John. I'm good. How are you? I'm
I
excited.
I am doing so well today. It was a rough day at work, but I'm here now and life is good. So can't complain. Can't complain.
That's great. Well, that's all that matters.
Amen. Amen. I love it. So, hello, Gianna. Thank you so much for being here. And I just want to say, I loved everything that I saw on your Instagram and your YouTube and just kind of the things that you're doing with cooking and promoting a healthier lifestyle for people. And I really respect that. So I just wanted to see, I guess the first question would be what's your story? Kind of how did you find your passion / what do you define your passion as?
Well, first, I'd like to say thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here and I'm excited to talk about all this. And I feel super special knowing that you felt inspired by me and chose me to come on here and talk about this.
Of course, of
Because
course.
I kind of just hang out alone at my house and do all these things, and I forget that the world sees it. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, so I guess my passion essentially is wellness
Hmm.
and helping people in general. And that spreads to a number of things because I am definitely somebody who does a multitude of things. I have my hands in so many different types of projects.
Hmm.
And as far as where it all started, um, I guess to start, I'd like to say that formally, I am a product designer. That's what I
Hmm.
went to school for.
Oh,
I
cool,
get
cool.
asked that a lot. So I thought I would just kind of throw that out there.
Yeah, just
But it kind of came from my upbringing. And I actually
hmm.
talk about that a lot in my first cookbook, Rabbit Food. But basically, I grew up in a household where my grandma lived with me for about 10 years. She's from Italy, does not speak much English, doesn't drive, and she has a very old school mentality in terms of cooking and preparing. And yeah, she had specific roles in her family, and that's
Hmm.
how she was raised. So when she came into my home, it just kind of became like, all right, so you're going to help me cook and do this and do that. And
Hmm.
my after school activities consisted of coming home and baking bread and making pasta from scratch instead of
Oh,
running
wow.
around outside with friends and playing sports and stuff. I mean, I eventually did that once
Hmm.
she moved out, but for a good 10 years,
Hmm.
starting when I was 5 years old, I
Jeez.
was responsible for making dinner and
Wow.
cooking and making pasta and bread. And I love bread, but for
Hmm.
a while I despised pasta and I never wanted to look at it again because I was so sick of it.
Oh, was that just because you were making it all the time and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think all good things eventually get old.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I mean, I love pasta though. So I kind of grew up around that, and I've been in the kitchen in general since I was about 2 years old. So my culinary background might not necessarily be professional in terms of going to school and formally studying,
Hmm.
but I think it's pretty legit based off of what I learned from my grandma and
A
my
hundred
mom and my
percent.
dad, because
Yeah.
everyone in my household cooks, and I'm super blessed to have that because a lot of people aren't able to have access to that.
Mm.
So that's kind of where I picked up a lot of my skills and abilities. And
Hmm.
as far as being interested in wellness in general, that kind of started since I was young as well. I had instilled in me at a very young age the value of ingredients and
Hmm.
sourcing ingredients. And we would go to specific markets and food stands and different things like that.
Oh,
And
wow.
pri prior to being vegan or
Hmm.
anything like that, we'd go to a butcher for one thing, we'd go and get cheese at another specific place, and everything was all in its own little, its own special place. And
Wow.
I
Awesome.
enjoyed that time, and
Hmm.
it just seemed like this is what you're supposed to do. And
Yeah, yeah.
didn't really have many friends. So once later on in life, I started to see how other households ran, and that's not really how everybody does things. I was like, all right, this is special. Like, this
Hmm.
is something special. And
Mm.
a lot of people have always been super intrigued by it. So I've always just been kind of like talking about it with people that I meet and friends and things like that. And here I am now just yelling about it on social media and all that jazz. So,
Yeah.
um, and as far as like working with my hands and
Hmm.
just being a maker in general, my dad built about 75% of my house. Um,
Whoa. Like
he's
that wall behind you?
he actually built this entire room, which you can.
What? Wait,
And
what does that even mean?
yeah, so he's retired now, but he
Mm,
worked full time during the day. His shift was 5 a.m. to 1 p.m.
mm,
and then he'd come home and do like carpentry. And he did side jobs as well as building most of our house. He was
mm.
always doing stuff around the house. You can actually see here, he made that mirror. I don't know if over there,
Oh,
you can
cool,
kind of
cool.
see in it
Yeah.
too.
That's
And
so cool looking. It's like wood frame and everything.
and that thing on the ceiling up there he
Oh.
made, it's just some like wood twig structure thing.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I've always kind of seen all aspects of my family have had their hands in something, whether
Mm.
it's food or building or whatever it may be. We were all kind of creatives in a sense, and
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of all came to a head and created me and all the things that I do. I sound like a crazy person, but I promise I'm not.
Oh no, not at all, not at all. So first off, I really love the fact that it started at such a young age and that's just kind of like molded you and that's just kind of who you are just from the very beginning. I think that's really awesome. And you really do have something special in the sense of just when you're talking about getting specific ingredients at specific locations, like for me, it's like aisle three at Walmart, like every single time, like there's no, there's no variation. It's just kind of like, oh, like eggs are here. And I was curious about the fact that you said your whole family was like creators from the very start and whatnot. So, out of all the different creations that your family has done, when did you kind of find which one was your passion and what was your first passion, I guess?
Well, you would think that with all this talk about food that it would just be cooking, but
Mm,
for a while I kind of resented that, and it wasn't until I went away to school that I realized how much I actually enjoyed it when I was cooking for myself.
mm.
But I actually would have to say that my first passion would be photography. Again,
What?
I've
I
had
love
my hands in
photography.
a lot of things. Yeah, it's great.
Hmm.
It's such a great way to just capture moments and express yourself. And
Mm,
yeah, I don't know. I loved. I'm a very I'm a very like I love to be, I'm a homebody and I kind
mm.
of like to be, I don't know if that's the correct term, but I enjoy my time alone. And I
Yeah.
kind of like that about photography. You can
Mm.
be in a
Oh,
moment and
amen.
just
Mm,
be so focused and so just invested in capturing something beautiful, whether
mm-hmm,
it be a person or a still life or food or a sunset or whatever that may
mm-hmm,
be. It's just you in that moment and it's so special and there's something even like kind of romantic about it, as weird as
mm.
that sounds, but yeah, just me having my romances with my camera and my food. But I don't know, I've always really liked it and I
Mm.
thought it was a really great way to express myself, and the way you edit your pictures is
Mm.
just a whole nother
100%.
realm of expression as well. And I've
Mm-hmm.
always been drawn to really dark and moody kinds of photography.
Mm, okay. Yeah, yeah.
So I try to bring that into some of my food pictures as well, but sometimes it doesn't take because
Mm-hmm.
you want food to be like bright and
Oh yeah, it's
colorful.
like tomatoes are like bright
Yeah,
red. You got
yeah,
greens. Like you can't have
right.
grays and blacks in there.
Yes, you can't just have this like all gray sandwich that's just not with so many shadows and
Yeah.
but yeah, so I love photography
Mm,
and I love just I yeah, so that would definitely be my first passion that kind of really noticed right away that I
mm,
felt struck by.
So, something that I'm just like curious, kind of off the side, not necessarily about the cooking, but you mentioned that you enjoy your solitude and being by yourself. And what have you kind of found to be the most, I guess, liberating thing about being alone versus like surrounded by people, and potentially vice versa, if you have an answer for that?
I think that there are certain types of people in the world. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's people that feel really energized by being around other people, and
Mm,
there's people that feel kind of drained in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with either way. You
Mm-hmm.
harness energy in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Every person does. But for me personally, I can be outgoing in small groups.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been the kind of person where if I go to a party, I'm going to sit, chill in one place and kind
Mm-hmm.
of just observe.
Yeah.
And I'm very observant. I like to kind of just take in all the moments and all the interactions and
Mm.
all the little details that if you, let's say, are watching a movie, some of the things that most people miss, I
Mm-hmm.
pick up
Yeah, yeah,
on.
yeah.
And that's great. And I enjoy that moment. And I'm perfectly sociable and I can be very outgoing, but I can only handle so much of it. And then
Mm.
I need time for myself again.
Right.
And I think the beauty about spending time with yourself, and it takes time to get used to if you're not used to being alone,
Mm-hmm.
but you get to know yourself and you start to really understand yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
as lame as it sounds, you kind of become your own friend. And
Yeah.
again, I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but
No,
it's
I really resonate with that. I really do.
really,
Mm-hmm.
that's great. I mean, it's so important because no matter who we have in this world
Mm-hmm.
physically around us,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, you go to sleep at night with yourself. It's just you. It's
Mm-hmm.
just you and yourself. And if you don't truly understand yourself or you're
Mm-hmm.
too busy trying to just kind of, I don't know, if you're filling your life with a lot of other things and people and opportunities and materialistic things, then you're not truly fulfilling yourself and you're going to feel a sense of loneliness and
Mm-hmm.
sadness. And you might not know where that's coming from. You might think that you need to fill that with the
With more
materialistic
stuff.
things,
Yeah.
right? With stuff,
Mm-hmm.
people. And it's not that. It could be as simple as what is something that truly makes you happy. And for me, that's actually my yoga practice.
Oh, awesome.
And I practice yoga regularly. And I think that and meditation is super important because that's one
Mm-hmm.
thing that can really ground you in the easiest way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes just sitting alone in a room could be pretty intimidating, but if
Mm-hmm.
you go take a yoga class and if you go to a studio where they keep the room dark and there's no mirrors, then all you have is you and
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts and the flow of the practice, and you're just kind of in this moment, and it's it's just you on that mat and
Mm.
your thoughts, and you kind of have to work through them. Not only
Yeah.
do you have to work through the poses, but you have to work through your headspace and
Mm.
emotions and that moment. And I think it's super important to be able to get through that because when I first started practicing, I couldn't get through it. I would
Mm-hmm.
think like, "Oh my God, I have to get out of here. I don't want to just think and like be in my head." And like
Yeah.
I felt triggered by so many things that
Mm-hmm.
were so unnecessary and so unimportant. And it really helped me ground myself and rid of
Mm.
my anxiety and just realize how important it is to find center with yourself and to have time with yourself. And
Mm.
I really value that now.
Mm.
So if you are the kind of person that you thrive around tons of people,
Mm-hmm.
and regardless of whether that makes you happy or not, it's important to step back and just recharge and
Mm.
remember
Amen.
you come first always.
Yeah. Ah, so much. I resonate so much with a lot of what you said. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, meditation and yoga have kind of been like over the years becoming more and more mainstream, I guess, or like people are really starting to enjoy meditation and practice yoga a lot more often. But still, there's still a lot of people that are kind of against it or don't really think that it really has benefits. So, what do you think is like a big misconception surrounding meditation and yoga in general?
I have to say, I think it's the same thing that surrounds, there's going to be stigmas with everything. Somebody's always going to have their opinions and their judgment towards something. That's
Hmm.
unfortunately the way society is.
Yeah.
It's just like what I face with veganism. There's always a stigma around veganism. And I think that at the end of the day, you just have to keep an open mind because everybody, no matter what they're doing, whether it's these are all lifestyles,
Mm.
and if you have things that overlap, then you do. But regardless, everyone's lifestyle, whether it be yoga, veganism, powerlifting, whatever it may be,
Hmm.
it's a random collection of things. But whatever that may be, just keep an open mind because you don't know the reason why somebody's doing something.
Mm,
And you would be surprised the kind of person that might be interested in something.
mm,
And if you have a stigma towards something or you fall into the the just I guess the stigma, I don't know what
mm,
other word I was trying to find,
mm-hmm.
then you might be keeping yourself away from something that could actually be helping you as well.
Right, right, right.
And I guess the best way I could explain this would be with a story coming from myself.
Mm,
When I first started going to yoga, it was about 10 years ago. And I remember my mom had taken me to class, and I'm not a very, like, I laugh at everything. I like, if, and I'm going to say this because it's going to come up in the story, but if somebody farts, like, I'm going to laugh hysterically. Like, life shouldn't be so crazy and like intense. It should be, you should laugh more
a
and
little more
just kind of like,
lighthearted, more
yeah, and just chill.
smiles, more laughs. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So
Amen.
I remember my mom started taking me to yoga and I was like, this is ridiculous. And
Hmm.
I laughed and I could not help laughing in class between the breathing and all the different all the sounds that the men in there were making because there were
Yeah.
old men in there like grunting and
Yeah.
like
Struggling
I
for like the
yeah,
warrior pose or something.
yeah, and I'm thinking like what the heck is going on? Like I can't handle this. And everybody was so zen and I just
Hmm.
it felt like a joke. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you ever heard of Tim and Eric,
Mm-mm.
but it's a comedy
I've
show
heard
that
of turmeric. Isn't that like a?
turmeric similar, very similar. It's a show that was on Adult Swim at one point. But
No.
it's basically like very like sarcastic, dark kind of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Um and that's kind of like the kind of humor that I have. I'm in class and I feel like I'm in this alternate reality and I just
Mm-hmm.
can't wait to get out. And then Savasana comes at the end where you just kind of like lay there for a few minutes and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like take it all in. And I'm laying there and I'm thinking like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. I have so many things to do. My life is so important. Me, me,
Mm-hmm.
me, 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 me. And I left class and I remember thinking like, never again. Like I'm never
Yeah.
doing this again. My mom kept bringing me because I was in high school at the time and I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a choice.
Right.
And I had already paid for like a 30-day membership
Trial.
thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So I kept going, and each week it was the same thing. I kept laughing and I felt ridiculous. And I started to realize that, you know what? I'm here. I'm going to make the best of it.
Mm.
It is what it is. And the things that I was laughing at didn't really, they weren't funny anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It just became like part of the practice. And I started to understand what was actually going on and started to appreciate what was going on.
Mm.
And then eventually I had something really unfortunate happen to me and high school. So obviously everything's fine now. This is like
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I had a really bad day and I went to class and I remember thinking like I don't want to laugh. I don't want to crack jokes. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be like left alone. I just want to like I wanted to like wallow in my own self-pity.
Right.
But I was in class and instead of that, I started dealing with my thoughts and I
Mm-hmm.
started getting all these things coming up and thinking like, oh my God, now I have to sit here and think about all this and like I have
Mm.
an hour and um I tried to for the first time focus on my breath and focus on my
Mm.
breathing and all the breathing that I was laughing at around me. I was suddenly doing it myself and I was thinking, okay, this kind of helps.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I started thinking like, all right, what if I do this and what if I do that? And it worked and it started to feel like, you know what, I feel good from this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this isn't so bad. And it took time. It took
Mm-hmm.
a lot of time and I was brought against my will for a while, but I think if you keep at it with something,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to these things that are now popular that a lot of people might feel judgment towards,
Mm-hmm.
if you there's a reason why people are doing it.
Right.
It's obviously working. And
Mm.
you know what? If you can't handle it, just stick with it for a little while because I
Mm-hmm.
promise you'll get something out of it. Even if that means you go and lay in the room and you just don't do anything and you
Mm-hmm.
just take in the moment and just lay there. I mean, that's a form of meditation within itself.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I mean, with all that being said though, if somebody farts in class, I'm still going to practice. No matter how zen I am, it's still zen.
Yeah. Yeah. Classic. I
So
don't. I feel like that's like one thing that I might never get over, or But
Yeah.
with that whole thing, I really love the last part you were talking about with the breathing, the breathing.
Reading.
Mainly because of the fact that like I feel like nowadays like so many things just become so routine, and it just kind of like unconsciously we do this, like unconsciously we breathe, unconsciously we wake up, go to work, brush our teeth or whatever. But to actually put the thought behind it and think about breathing, it's like a concept that's very foreign because like you don't really think about breathing.
Right.
And the fact that it really connects with your story and how it really helps slow down the heart rate and really get you to think and whatnot. I really like that. So thank you for sharing the whole story
You're
and
welcome.
the breathing aspect too. I really like that.
I was just gonna say your breath is your peace. A lot of
Mm,
people don't realize that.
wow, I love that quote. That is your breath is your peace. I like that. That's cool. So we went a little off track, but at the same time, like learning so much. So it's great. You mentioned that before you were eating meat and doing foods of all kinds and whatnot. So when was the shift for you from going from eating a bunch of different stuff to vegan, or did you go to vegetarian, or what is that shift for you, and what kind of impact did that shift?
So for me, it was a number of things. I I'll start by saying that I saw a holistic pediatrician until I was 18.
Mm,
So I always kind of had natural medicine in my life. It was,
okay.
again, something that I was just super blessed to have around me
Mm,
because a lot of people don't even know what that is.
mm-hmm.
But we did a lot of things more holistically at my house. And I'd been seeing my pediatrician, I think it was around the time that I was 15 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and I started to have a hormonal imbalance.
Oh.
And the reason that it came about was because I was starting to see that I was having trouble losing weight. And I mean, when you're 14, 15 years old, you shouldn't be really worrying about like, oh,
Right.
I got to lose weight. But I was overweight for my age.
Mm,
And I had been doing track and stuff at the time. So I was thinking, why is this not helping?
mm,
And I was having difficulty losing weight. I had a lot of excess bloating, and I had some rosacea and a lot of like, for lack of a better explanation, I had a lot of hair on my body
yeah.
that was completely abnormal hair growth
Mm-hmm.
and nothing that I really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, like if you embrace body hair, like that's great, good for you. I
Mm-hmm.
just personally didn't want that, and I was
Mm-hmm.
super insecure about it. So
Right.
my doctor, pediatrician, recommended that I remove dairy from my diet because dairy has a lot of excess hormones in it.
What?
Yeah, so I actually, instead of going vegetarian to vegan and all that, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even know what veganism was.
Right.
I wasn't even thinking of like, oh, I'm going to be vegetarian now, or like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking like, you know what? I'm going to start by what I'm eating.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I'm eating is affecting my body in a
Mm.
negative way. And according to my pediatrician, that was dairy. So I removed dairy from my diet, and
Like
that was
completely?
super,
100%?
yeah,
Wow.
yes. And that was super hard for me because I really liked milk and I liked
Yeah.
cheese a lot. I mean, who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't?
Yeah,
But
seriously.
yeah. And it was super difficult for me to do,
Mm.
but I cut it out and I started to notice a big difference from doing that. I started to lose the weight. I started to
Wow.
a lot less bloating.
How
And
long did was that transition? Like was it like a few weeks, a day, like a month?
it took a couple months.
Okay.
Um, but
Wow.
yeah, I did start to notice a difference. And I also felt this is going to be kind of gross, but I had a lot of excess phlegm in
Mm-hmm.
my mouth. And I felt like, I don't know, I felt like I had like a lot of congestion,
Mm-hmm.
allergies, like the excess phlegm, and just like a lot of weirdness going on in my
Mm-hmm.
sinuses.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I stopped having dairy, that all went away. I wasn't getting
Mm.
sick anymore. And I was one of those people that assumed for a long time, oh, yeah, I just have a bad immune system. I get sick
Yeah.
all the time. But I'm, I mean, I don't mean to sound like a crazy hippie, but it was from having so much dairy. I was drinking a lot of milk and I was
Mm-hmm.
eating a lot of cheese, and it affects your sinuses, and the
Wow.
hormones affect your hormones as well.
Yeah.
So I cut that out, and then I found out I was lactose intolerant when I
Wow.
tried eating it again because I guess from removing it from your diet,
Mm-hmm.
my body got used to not having it, and or maybe I was lactose intolerant the whole time and I didn't
Yeah.
know. But once I became lactose intolerant, I didn't really care about not having it because I felt
Mm-hmm.
better, I looked better, my confidence was coming back, and it kind of
Mm-hmm.
just became like, yeah, all right, cool, like this is my life.
Yeah.
And then as far as meat, when I went away to school about 3.5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I went to school out in Los Angeles. I'm from New Jersey.
Hey, I'm
So
from Jersey. Woo!
nice, nice, represent. It's very underrated.
Yeah. Amen.
But I was researching because I wasn't going to have a meal plan and I was going to be cooking for myself
Mm.
the best ways to save money on groceries. And
Wow.
a lot of the meals that I grew up eating didn't consist of meat or cheese. They were
Mm-hmm.
super basic staples. I ate lots of root vegetables and
Mm-hmm.
greens, rice, potatoes, pasta, and all that kind of stuff. We ate
Mm-hmm.
lots of soups and stews and things that you could make in bulk for large groups of people. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so I kind of just took those recipes with me and I eliminated things that were going to be costly, like meat, fish, wasn't buying dairy because I would die if I ate it. And I kind of just took to that when I got
Mm-hmm.
out of school. I wasn't buying those things and I wasn't going out to eat because not only did I not have the time, but I didn't have the money.
Mm.
And it kind of just became like, all right, I was meal prepping and I was making like lentil soup and I would make like escarole and beans
Oh,
and
wow.
pasta dishes and like things that I grew up eating that honestly were what I was used to eating anyway. It
Yeah.
wasn't like I was eating these crazy elaborate meals. It was very inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of rice and beans and things like that. And then I remember after a couple months, I went out to eat and I wanted to get a burger. And I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking, like, or like maybe it was like a chicken sandwich or something.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember I was in the mood for it and I felt like, oh, it's been so long since I've had this. Like, I'm going to get it. And
Yeah.
I got so sick from it.
Oh, wow.
And at first I thought I had food poisoning and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, yeah, it's just food poisoning. It's not a big deal. Whatever. But then I ended up getting really sick. Like, I was sick for a few days.
Mm.
And again, I just thought it was food poisoning, but it happened again. A couple weeks later, I went out again. I think somebody that I went to school with had like a Super Bowl party or whatever, and they
Mm-hmm.
got like wings and pizza and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had some of the chicken that was there,
Mm-hmm.
and I got really sick again. So
Oh,
then I
wow.
thought, like, okay, maybe I can't eat chicken. Maybe it's something with chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went out and I got a burger, and it was a beef burger. And I never really ate red meat at my house growing up. We
Mm-hmm.
ate more so those ironically plant-based types dishes
Okay.
with dairy and cheese and stuff, or
Mm-hmm.
fish or
Mm.
chicken. But I really didn't eat a lot of red meat. But when I went to eat this burger, I got really sick again, and I
Oh,
started
wow.
to notice that the food wasn't really digesting. It was just kind of sitting in my stomach, and
Mm.
I literally would carry around about 5 extra pounds with me of this food just chilling in my body, not digesting
Wow.
for about a week. And then eventually it would go away, but I was like, this is not worth it. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
the hell is going on here, but
Yeah.
just really don't feel good and I'm not enjoying it. And I started doing research and that was kind of when I found veganism.
Mm.
I was like, okay, I mean,
Wow.
this isn't like I have some kind of disease and like I found the source of the disease. I just kind of accepted that I couldn't, these things were bothering me and I didn't
Yeah.
like how I felt and I was trying to find solutions. So when I found veganism, for me, the most interesting thing was, okay, here's a bunch of recipes I've never even heard of that don't
Mm-hmm.
even include these things that I no longer can have.
Mm-hmm.
But the creative in me and like the person who likes to cook in me, I don't
Yeah.
know, better.
The
Um,
chef, the inner chef.
yeah, I guess the chef in me. Um, I started to kind of feel super inspired by it. And some people would think like, oh my God, my life is over. My
Mm.
life is so limited now. I can only eat this, this, and this. But
Mm-hmm.
I actually saw it as exciting and I saw it as a way to try new things. And I
Yeah.
love food in general. So for me, it was like, okay, what are new foods that I could try? And like, what are some new combinations I can come up
It's
with?
like
And
a whole new world opened up to you.
yeah, that's how it felt. And it was super exciting. And I loved all the things that I was learning. And
Mm.
I don't know, I felt kind of excited about it. And
Yeah.
I started cooking outside of the meals that I was used to eating, but I was trying all these different things and I was eating a whole foods plant-based diet. So I wasn't buying like tofu, like a lot of people transitioning to veganism, they're buying like tofu and
Hmm.
the Beyond Meat burgers. And I mean, all that stuff is great in moderation, but I just I cook myself. So I
Yeah.
just eat everything from scratch and I really enjoyed it. And it kind of just snowballed. And I slowly started sharing it. And then lo and behold, here I am 4 years later with two cookbooks and sitting here with you talking about everything.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. That there's just like so much in that, in the sense of just you realizing that, trying to figure out why you were feeling so negative in your body, and trying to figure out what that was in that process, but
Right.
also coming to terms with, this is what my body is reacting to right now, and rather than like fight through it, I'm gonna, adapt and make a better, healthier life out of this. So I really respect that. That's really awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess like the first question I have is, what was like the biggest body changes that you felt like in your everyday, from changing from a meat diet or a diet with some meat in it to, plant-based and all that? People say you get more energized or you're less tired or whatever. What were the effects of changing your diet?
I will definitely say that I felt a lot more energy.
Mm.
I could very easily pass as a super lazy person, um, especially being that I didn't really have much like outdoor activity when I was younger. I was
Mm-hmm.
in the kitchen cooking and
Mm-hmm.
not like running around outside. So I could easily be very lazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that when I started eating better, my body felt better and I felt like I had the energy. I didn't feel as lethargic
Mm-hmm.
to go for a run or go for a walk or just do more things in general. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I just felt a lot lighter in a
Mm-hmm.
sense. Um, yeah, I mean, those were the biggest things that I noticed right off the bat that felt really like exciting to me because I felt inspired and I felt motivated and
Mm-hmm.
I started taking better care of myself and I actually lost when I first transitioned, I was about 150 pounds. It was the heaviest I'd ever been. I'm only
Mm-hmm.
5'2", and now I'm back at the weight that I was when I lost the weight initially because my weight
Mm-hmm.
fluctuated over the past 4 years. But
Mm-hmm.
now I'm about 123.
Oh,
So
wow.
when I first transitioned, I in the matter of a year, I went from about 150 to down to like 123.
Wow.
And
Hmm.
I I had an increase in my activity levels. I was
Mm-hmm.
eating better. I was drinking a lot more water.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just had the energy to do these things and I was feeling myself better. So my bot plus my hormones rebalanced and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't having dairy and that attributed a lot. My weight fluctuated though between the last 4 years just from being in school and
Mm-hmm.
there were points where I really couldn't be active because I was busy with school and
Right,
et
right.
cetera, et cetera. But now I'm officially back to the point where I was about 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago when I officially transitioned. And yeah, so I mean, that in itself was exciting for me because
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, wow, I've been trying so long to lose this weight and
Mm-hmm.
it was so easy now. And it wasn't because I was eating like a bird. I mean, I eat a lot. I could really put back a lot of food. So the activity really helped. And
Mm,
yeah,
cool.
so
And another thing is, you're great at photography. You do well with food photography. A lot of times people say like vegan food or vegetarian food is tasteless. It doesn't taste good. But according to your pictures, and I'm assuming the taste of when people eat it, it seems like that's a false statement. Is that false or is it true? Like, where's that?
let me just tell you, when you make anything, if
Hmm.
you can make anything and have it be bland and have it be boring. The
Hmm.
key to making something taste good is the seasoning,
Hmm.
onions, and garlic. That is the key to
Amen.
things. If you season the hell out of something, you cook
Hmm.
with onions and garlic and you marinate it and put some kind of sauce on it, it's going to taste good.
Mm.
So if people are like, "Oh, tofu is disgusting. It tastes like nothing. It's so bland." So is a
Hmm.
piece of chicken. Chicken
Yeah.
doesn't really taste like anything if you just boil it on. the stove and don't put anything on it. But
Yeah,
if you
that sounds
marinate it and
horrendous.
if you yeah, if you marinate it and slow cook it and season it and put all kinds of crazy sauces and butters and things like that. And there's
Hmm.
vegan butter too, so you can't say like, oh, but I can't have that.
Yeah.
It's going to taste good. And you can
Mm.
achieve that with a lot of things, whether it
Mm.
be potatoes or jackfruit or the Beyond Meat products or
Mm.
tofu or tempeh or whatever. If you season it, you cook it the right way, and you have a little patience, it's going to
Mm.
be, it's the same thing.
Mm.
Um, so, and for me, I see that as a challenge. If
Mm.
you tell me, oh, I can't make this taste very good, I guarantee that if you season it correctly,
Mhm.
marinate it, and you put a little love into it, it'll taste very good. I
Yeah.
mean, you could do some crazy things with mushrooms,
Mhm.
and I just got into that recently. If
Oh,
you,
I hate mushrooms.
you know what, they're an acquired taste, but
Mhm.
again, if you season them and you
Mhm.
marinate them, shred them up, they look just like pulled pork.
Mm.
I mean, I think the only thing that differentiates would be texture. If
Mhm.
you wanted to really get in there and be like, oh, well, I missed the texture of this, that
Mhm.
might be hard to replicate. But as far as making something taste good,
Mhm.
it's all about the seasoning, onions, garlic, and patience.
Yeah. Amen. Cool, cool. So, another thing that I was curious about was the fact that oh, your book. Yeah, what obviously. That's we need to talk about your books. You said you have two books or you just released the second one, but these your books are recipe books or are they like your story mingled into it? Like talk about your books.
Okay, so my first book is Rabbit Food, and
Nice.
that came out about a year ago. Again, I have a dark sense of humor, so a lot of people give me all kinds of sass and say like, "Oh, you're a rabbit. All you eat is carrots and lettuce." And so I thought, all right, well, here's a book of rabbit food that doesn't
Yeah.
contain any of that. And
Yeah, yeah.
you tell me if you won't eat these things.
Mhm.
But yeah, so my first book is Rabbit Food, and
Mhm.
my approach with that book was as a product designer, being in school, I was taking business classes and marketing classes, and I thought, okay, I have my social media presence. They're interested in my recipes. Let me run a Kickstarter and see if I can show that there's a place in the market for me to release a product.
Mm.
This is going to be what seals the deal for that. If I reach
Mm.
my goal, then it shows that there is a desire for my product and it's worth
Mhm.
the time. And if I don't, then it's not meant to be, and I'll try again at another point.
Right, right.
And I was planning to publish, but I knew nothing about publishing at the time. So I
Mhm.
launched a Kickstarter, and it was again something that I was inspired by through my business and marketing classes at school. And
Mhm.
I reached my goal. I actually exceeded it by 1,000.
Wow,
And
nice.
I ended up not needing the money to publish specifically, but I
Mhm.
used the money to purchase a camera and proper equipment to photograph
Mm. For
my
the
books
book.
that I have. Yeah.
Mhm.
So um, I ended up looking into publishing, and I found out that that's a nightmare. And unless you get picked up by an agency or
Mhm.
you have an agent yourself, you need to independently publish, and that's it's its own monster of obstacles.
Oh, wow.
Um, you're completely on your own. You need to put up the funds yourself.
Mm.
It's it's a lot of work, and I got taken advantage of by a lot of companies,
Oh, wow.
but I ended up publishing with Amazon. It's
Mhm.
called Create Space specifically,
Mhm.
which is a independent publishing platform through Amazon.
Oh, wow.
And
I didn't
you
know they did
print,
that.
yeah, so it's free to
Mhm.
publish with them, and then you just pay for the books, and like you could promote the Amazon link itself. But to be honest with you, I'd only make like $3 a book if I
Mhm.
promote the Amazon link, and yet the book is selling for like $35, which
Wow.
is ridiculous. Who's
What the?
who's gonna pay $35 for a soft cover cookbook? So, but ironically, I say that and they're selling, so I'm kind of contradicting myself.
Yeah.
But I think if I were the person buying that book, and my boyfriend gets on me about this all the time because he's like, it's the value of it is what you think it's worth, like what
Mhm.
you put into it, and it's worth $35. But I think like a soft cover cookbook, if I'm on Amazon and I want to buy a book, I'm not going to pay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I put out rabbit food, and there's a couple pages talking about my inspirations as
Hmm.
well as my background, which we talked about here a little bit.
Hmm.
Very brief, though. It's mostly just the recipes.
Hmm.
And then I have to say, I'm super bad, not anymore, but I'm super bad at sitting down and writing down recipes. So it was very difficult for me to write a cookbook because I
Hmm.
was like, how the heck am I going to get all these recipes written down? I'm a
Yeah.
super spontaneous, in the moment kind of chef, and I
Yeah.
don't really think. I just kind of, I don't
Just like
measure
throw
things
something in
out.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't measure things out at this point. I just kind of go for it, and I know
Hmm.
what things taste like, and I'm very experimental. So I'm not gonna lie, there's a few recipes in rabbit food that aren't 100% accurate, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
However, with my second book, the
Hmm.
Mellow Cookbook, I talk a lot more in depth about my personal story, my
Hmm.
relationships with food, how I feel about wellness. I
Hmm.
talk about the trinity of elements that make up a healthy life, which I'm not going to get into because you
Hmm.
got to read the book to find out.
Oof.
And
Cliffhanger.
I also share a lot of super personal things about myself, which I've actually never talked about. I mean, when
Mm.
my dad read the book, he was like, "Is this true? Did this actually happen?" And I
Wow.
was like, "No, Dad, I just made it up and like threw it in there for the heck of it." Like, yes, it's true, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a spiritual journey and it's a story as well as recipes. So you get
Mm.
the recipes, which are 100% correct this time.
Nice.
And you also get the photography, which is on a whole nother level compared to the first book.
Mm.
And you get the story and you get a part of me that I'm terrified about. These
Mm.
books are still in shipment right now. My
Yeah.
first, my pre-orders that I had,
Mm.
they're still on their way to people. And I have anxiety every single day knowing that people are going to be reading
Yeah.
what, and I've been sharing aspects of it through Instagram. And so far,
Mm.
everybody's really enjoying it.
Mm.
But I think of it as my vulnerability will help somebody else in a way that I wish that I had for myself.
Mm.
Help guide somebody in a way that I didn't have. And
Mm.
granted, I had a lot of things that a lot of people don't, like my upbringing with having access
Mm.
to the ingredients I had and my views and um, just the perspectives I had from the values that my parents had with
Mm.
holistic healing and all of that. And yeah, I was introduced to that all at a young age and all that good stuff. But it talks a lot about mental health and how important it is to
Mm.
take care of yourself
Amen.
through through and through. Because I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't matter what you could eat a salad every day, you could go to the gym every day, you could have all the money in the world, and you could still be very upset inside, and
Mm.
you could feel painful and lonely, and everybody experiences that on some kind of level. And I think it's super important to know that if you want to have a healthy life, you want to make a better life for yourself and you want to transition to a different lifestyle, you got to find what works for you. It's got to be
Mm.
something that's sustainable and it's got to be something that can truly nourish you in a multitude of ways. And that's body, mind, and spirit. It can't just be eating the salad every day, meal prepping the same meal every day,
Mm.
lifting at the gym, going and killing yourself at a job so you can make 100,000 a year. It's got to
Mm.
be something that truly fuels you in so many different ways. And I talk about all that in the book, this
Mm.
new book. So yeah, they're both out there. They're both on Amazon. Um, yeah, and
Wow.
that's kind of that's kind of it for those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
But I'm all myself, and I also feature in the new book. I feature a lot of chefs
Oh,
that
cool.
inspire me, and some people are just they're just people that
Mm.
like to cook. They're not necessarily chefs by any means, but
Mm.
it ranges from super intense foodies that are blowing up on Instagram to just your average person who likes to make soup and they post
Mm.
beautiful pictures of soup and I message them because I'm like, yo, your soup looks great. I want to put it in my book.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I think that at the end of the day, a cookbook, a couldn't book, yeah. A cookbook shouldn't be intimidating. Yeah, it's
Mm.
great to have a collection of super cool recipes and things like that, but
Mm.
shouldn't be intimidating. It should be something that's realistic and that the average person can make on a daily basis. And
Mm.
um, yeah, so that's kind of
Wow.
it.
Yeah, no, I love listening to you talk about both books, especially because it seems like there's been so much change and so much growth from the first to the second. And I find that so inspiring and so that's just awesome, you know? Like your level is on a completely different level. You went up like 500 notches. I don't know what you want to compare it to, but it sounds like your photography and just the storytelling in itself, it seems like it's just been enhanced and I find it so admirable that you were able to be that vulnerable in a book. And I was kind of curious to hear about like the process of you, like I guess talking to yourself about making the second book and how to go about creating the second book. Like what was that planning process and what was that? Were there any struggles? Well, clearly there were some struggles with like being that vulnerable, but what were those stages of creating the second book with the ideas behind it and the actual creating of it?
So I felt like what created the second book was a whole lot of being frustrated.
Mm.
I was super frustrated because I was thinking, I don't want to just be known as somebody who takes pretty pictures of food,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to be known as a foodie or an influencer or anything like that. There's so much more to me than that, and there's so
Mm.
many other things that I can offer. And the most questions that I get through Instagram on a daily basis aren't even related to food or going vegan or anything like that. It's more
Oh
so
wow.
about my writing because I like to write. And if you read
Ah.
my captions are all super in depth about healing and
Mm.
wellness and mental health and anxiety and a lot of deeper topics. It's not just a picture of a burger. It's you get the picture of the burger, but then I'm talking about anxiety and how it's something that affects everybody. And I get tons of messages and questions about things like that on a daily basis, way more than I get, hey, how do I go vegan? And I wanted to kind of address that because it's hard to, you don't really have as enough of a space to really sit down and like write a caption. You're limited a certain amount of characters.
Mm-hmm.
You can only deliver so much with a picture. A photo can only say so much. You have limited space in your DMs. You can't type these long. I mean, granted, I send messages that are like 20 things long because I'm
Yeah.
sending so much information. Um, and even with a YouTube video, what am I going to sit down and make like an hour long video of me just talking? No one's going to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought there's got to be a way that I can sit down and compile this information that I want to share in a way that I can help people and in a way that it's going to get to the people that might not read it, that might actually need it as well.
Mm.
So I thought of a way that I could fuse together my audience. And I hate saying audience because they're all people and I care about them a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wanted to try to find a way to bridge the gap between the different types of people that were looking at my content.
Mm.
And I have people that are interested in my page, not just be, I have the people that are interested in the food, but I also have the people that are interested in, hey, I'm really depressed and
Mm.
I want to feel better about myself. Can you help me? Or hey, I'm trying to have confidence with my body and what can I do to get there? Or, hey, I feel that Instagram is a super over sexualized place and I'm super intimidated and
Mm.
should I be doing things differently to adhere to that? And so I wanted to try to fuse that together and get both of those categories of people to read these messages, but also have access to these recipes.
Mm.
And I tell people all the time, okay, yeah, I'm vegan and okay, I live my life this way. And if you talk to me about it, I'll get into detail about
Mm.
my values and the reason why I stand by what I do. But I'm not going to preach to anybody that this is how their life should be because
Right.
everybody's different. Everybody has different values and different ways of living and different things that make them feel good. And
Mm.
I think to each their own. And I tell people all the time, you buy my book and okay, make the sandwich. And if you want to put something else on it, go for it. Like
Yeah.
it's your life. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what? Maybe you eventually start to think about the things that I'm talking about and you think, hey, you know what? I wonder what would happen if I stop eating dairy.
Mm.
And will that help me with ABC issue? I mean, and then you start thinking like I have these recipes in front of me. I can try something I can try something without adding my extra things to it, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'll like it, and you probably will. It's just a very, it's the least intimidating way to deliver information to somebody without being like, here's a little blurb, and here's another little blurb, and or here's a nice picture, and here's another nice picture, and it eventually gets buried in your feed and then disappears. You
Mm-hmm.
have this collection of information. And so with the second book, I kind of reached a point where I felt like, you know what, I need to find a way to put all this together. I
Mm-hmm.
need to find a way to get not closure, but there were things that I didn't get to put in the first book due to having to meet deadlines and everything with school because I
Mm-hmm.
published that in school. And I wanted to address it and I wanted to make it happen. And I felt like what better time to do it than now? And I kind of just started, and that was in March. And the book, I finished the book in August, the very end of August, like a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been it's been very interesting, but it's also been super frustrating and super hard. I actually completely disconnected myself from social media entirely for about a week when I was writing the writing aspect of the book because I was super emotional about it and I was
Mm-hmm.
just thinking like, okay, this is I really need to plug in 110%. I had all my self-help books in a pile next to me and I was just it all came from me, but I had them there because I was thinking about what I gained from them and what I could give to others. And I wanted to try to package it in the best way that I could that could help as many people as possible because ultimately that's my goal. I want you to feel good about yourself. I want you to realize that like this life that we have is such a gift. It's so special and it's so important and there's so many people out there. I mean, it's the people in your life that you think are the happiest and
Mm-hmm.
the doing the best. Those are probably the people that are hurting the most and
Mm-hmm.
they might never come forward and say it and yeah, so maybe they're buying a cookbook thinking like, "Hey, I want to make some good recipes," but then they're being like,
Get
"Oh,
so much
wow,
more. Yeah.
there's so much more to this and this actually helps me in a positive way and I can do anything."
Amen. Man, I really love everything that you were saying and just the fact that it's just so much more than just cooking. It's so much more than food or dieting or losing weight or whatever. It like you said multiple times. It starts with you, and I really respect and really appreciate what you're doing for, um, or the reason behind why you're creating and doing the things that you're doing and following your passions. I really enjoy that and really respect that a lot.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's weird because I just again like I'm you can see like I'm just alone in a room. I'm just alone at my house all the time and I'm kind of just in my head and doing all these
Hmm.
things and it's weird. I forget that the world is gonna have it in front of them and
Yeah,
be able to gain something from it and but it's kind of cool too in a way.
yeah, 100%. What do you think people aren't doing enough of today?
Drinking water.
That's actually so true. I went to a nutritionist and did like my levels and stuff. And the first time I went was like 7 months ago, and my body hydration level, I was at like 20 or 30%, and she's like, "Yeah, that's really bad. You got to be at like 50 to 70." And I was like, "What? What do you mean? Like I drink so much water, like 3, 4 glasses." And she's like, "Nah, that's not enough." So now I
Nope.
like chug water all day, but that is huge. The water thing is
Yeah.
huge. Do you like what else about water? Like I don't know much about it except
I
that.
mean, our bodies are mostly made up of water.
Hmm.
So regardless of what your lifestyle is otherwise, you need water to just feel good. I
Survive.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that too, to survive. I should have said that. But it's so important because, and I tell a lot of people if they come forward to me asking straight up about a diet, the first
Hmm.
thing I say is, "Do you drink water? Do you drink a lot of water?" Okay, I'm having issues with my skin. How much water do you drink? Oh, I
Mm.
can't go to the bathroom. How much water do you drink? Oh, I
Yeah.
can't. It's that it all kind of
Solves all
starts.
problems.
Yeah, that's like the first thing that I ask.
Mm.
But next to that, I would definitely say breathing because
Mm.
I've read this before. I don't remember the proper term or like statement, but essentially it was saying that the length of your life is determined by the length of your breath.
Mm.
And
Wow.
the shortness, if you have short breath, and no, here, okay, here's a better way to explain
Okay.
it. So, dogs, the reason why the dogs have such a short lifespan is
Hmm.
because they pant, they have shorter breath. They don't
Right,
really
right.
breathe the way humans do. And if the length of your life is determined by the length of your breath, that's why dogs live such a short life,
Mm.
because they don't really have this deep breath, especially dogs with shorter snouts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a person that is super anxious, you're super stressed out, you're constantly just like hyper in a like anxious, heightened state, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to die sooner because of stress. Stress is a killer, but stress comes from anxiety, which comes from your breath. You can harness that and you can control all of that just by
Mm-hmm.
taking a moment and saying, okay, and I'm anxious as heck.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very anxious person. I consider myself I'm Monica from Friends if you
I never watched Friends,
okay,
but I
all right.
heard, I guess she's
Yeah,
anxious.
so she's super neurotic, loves to
Mm-hmm.
clean, likes to be in control. That's
Mm-hmm.
me. So I'm a very anxious person, and I find that if I'm getting very anxious, whether it's about public speaking, which I do enjoy, but I get
Mm-hmm.
anxious about it, or let's say something happened and I'm feeling anxious, or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
may be, walking down the hallway and I feel anxious, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, you can control that by taking a moment and just breathing and just
Amen.
focusing on that. And
Mm-hmm.
if you, that's why they say count to 10 and just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you so much. And again, that's one of those things that people think like, oh, it's ridiculous. Like, yeah, I'm gonna just like stand. I don't have time to stand there and count to 10 and breathe. You have time. Trust me, you do.
Yeah.
And it's really important. And I think that again, your breath is your peace. It's something
Mm-hmm.
that you can really learn to control and you can really learn to master. And it's one of those things where again, if it's working for a lot of other people, it's healing a lot of people in a lot of different ways. So clearly it has some kind of impact. There's something good in that.
Yeah. Amen. Cool,
So
cool.
drink water and breathe.
Drink water and breathe. I
Yeah.
love that. All right. So it looks like we're coming to the end of our interview. On our podcast, I like to ask 3 questions to every guest at the end. But before I get to that, again, I just want to take the time to really acknowledge you and just thank you for your honesty, your vulnerability, and just your passion and your mission. And I really hope the best for your second book. I know you said it, you're a little anxious about it, but I really do think that people are going to love it. They're going to resonate so much with it. I just want to say thank you for, sharing yourself with the world and, helping people and really just getting down with the nitty and gritty and helping people from the things that they put into their body to the way they think about themselves. I think that's awesome. And thank you for being on the podcast.
Honestly, I could flip all that and turn it right back to you and just say thank you for having me on here and
Hmm.
getting me out of my little world to actually talk about this to a new audience of people because it's super important. I mean, I'm not here to be a billionaire. I'm not here to
Hmm.
make hundreds of friends and be famous on Instagram. I'm here to help people and I
Mm.
want to try to spread my message in the best way that I possibly can in the least intimidating way that I possibly can. And yeah, so I appreciate people like you that can put together a podcast because I mean I would love to have my own podcast someday, but to me it's just like, oh my God, a whole nother world of technology.
Whole nother
Um,
animal. Yeah.
yeah, so I give you a lot of props for sitting down and reaching out to people, and people don't realize how much work goes into all these things, and not to mention you have another job as well. So thank you, honestly, for
Yeah.
all that you do and coming and finding me, who's hiding in a hole, pumping out cookbooks.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, thank you. Thank you. I really do appreciate that. And if you ever want to start a podcast and you need help or tips and tricks, like let me know. Love helping people as well. So I'm
I'm
always a
sure you
resource for
will.
you if you want.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. So we're going to get down to these 3 questions.
Okay.
First one is what's been the favorite chapter of your life?
Ooh, favorite chapter of my life. Um, Probably the hardest one, which was while I was at school in Los
Mm.
Angeles. And it was for a number of reasons. One, I moved across the country
Hmm.
spontaneously. Literally, I know we don't have the time, but I literally changed my entire life in the matter of a week. I dropped out of
Jeez.
the radiography program at my county college, packed my bag, applied to one art school, made a portfolio in 24 hours, and drove across the
Holy
country
crap. What the?
to LA. And
I wish we
I
talked more about that. Goodness.
yeah, I mean, a lot of people would ask me, my professors would ask me, "Oh, how's everything going with school?" When we would have our monthly like reviews. And I
Mm.
would say, "Trust me, school's the least of my concerns. I've got a hell of a lot going on outside of school
Hmm.
between my living situation and my apartment's getting infested with cockroaches and
Oh
I
my
lived
gosh.
in several different places, was commuting
Yeah.
4 hours to school, writing my
Wha-
first book." Yeah. So I have to
Jeez.
say that would probably be my best chapter because it really I grew a lot and
Mm. I
it
bet.
just
Goodness
I
gracious.
I think your darkest times are so important and we often take them for granted because they bring you to the light.
Yeah.
As bad
Yeah.
as they are, they get you there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would just be in like this weird hospital lighting all the time. That's
Yeah.
just this
Yeah,
weird limbo.
I think there's a quote that's like the your brightest day comes after the darkest night or something like that.
Something like
Um,
that.
yeah, sounds good. All right, second question is if you had to give a name to the next chapter in your life, what would you name it?
Oh God. It's torn. I'm torn between. Ooh, it's hard. That's hard to say. I mean, you know what? I'd like to say grounded
Hmm.
because I'm actually in the midst of starting my uh, process to become certified as a yoga instructor.
Oh, awesome. Good luck with that. That's great.
Thank you. It starts on Wednesday, so I'm really
Hmm.
excited. But I really want to focus because now I'm back home and I'm living at home and trying to figure out where I'm going to go next and what I'm going
Hmm.
to do next. And I feel like my life's been super hectic as of recently, just because I'm in like this awkward stage.
Hmm.
So I want to try to harness control over that, refacilitate a new path, and just like be grounded. I want to
Hmm.
feel at peace throughout all of this, good and bad, because
Yeah.
it's easy to get swept up in the transitions and to think like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I need to make money. I need to do this.
Hmm.
So I want to try to be more grounded and I want to try to really keep focusing on my breath because
Hmm.
life has been rough this last week, let me tell you.
Goodness gracious. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope it
No,
gets better.
it's okay. It's okay. It's just
Hmm.
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you can get through it easily. Maybe not easily, but like I think you get through it.
We all find a way.
Amen. Amen. All right. So, last question for the day is if you had to put a title to the book of your entire life up until this moment, what would you title that book?
Oh my gosh. That is very difficult.
Seems like there's been a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hate to be corny, but
Oh, we embrace that here.
I I want to say Mello, and
Mm,
that was the brand that I developed when I was in school, and that's
mm,
an aspect of my new book, the Mello Cookbook. But
mm,
the reason that I pick Mello is because no matter how crazy things get or how hostile people can be or how tight money is,
mm,
I've always tried to be really calm and laid back about things. And I
mm,
say that even coming from my moments of being super anxious and nuts. Like, I
mm,
think it's important to always face things in the calmest way and to just understand that even if you're feeling like the world is crashing around you,
mm,
the it's important to just know that the universe brings things into your life for a
mm,
reason. There's certain things that are coming into your life, good and bad, for a reason. And you're only given as much as you can take, even if it
mm,
seems like the worst is happening. And so I think Yeah, I mean, I could really go on for a while about this, but I would say Mello because I think that no matter how stressed and anxious you get or how hard life gets, you have
Mm,
to try to stay calm and you have to try to just be at peace with whatever's happening with you, and whether that means accepting it and working through it or
mm.
just yeah, I that none of that probably makes any sense, but that's
Mellow.
what I have to say.
I like it. I like it. Well, you survived the interview. You survived the last three questions. So right now, where can our listeners find you and hear more about your story, your awesome recipes, your vulnerability, and your dope captions that you make? Where can they find you?
So I am on Instagram
Mm-hmm.
primarily. I mean, I have Facebook as well, but I don't really use it.
Mm.
And on Instagram, you can find me at my name. It's just Gianna underscore Ciaramello.
Ciaramello.
And then, yes. And my website is just giannacaramello.com. And if
Nice.
you type in giannacaramello.com, you go to my website,
Mm-hmm.
you can hit the drop down, and I have my cookbooks, I have ebooks, I have recipes. I also have recommendations for supplements and products and all kinds of. I don't make money from them. I just have
Mm-hmm.
them on there from for like people who ask me, what kind of vitamins do you take and
Yeah.
all that good stuff. So, but you didn't ask me about vitamins. So, yeah, if you need me on Instagram, it's just Gianna underscore Ciaramello.
Mm.
You want to message me, talk about your life, whatever it may be, that's that. And then my website's just my name.
Awesome. Well, man, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun for me, and I hope you had a good time. And I really think that the listeners will get some awesome insight from you. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate being here and had a lot of fun.
Awesome. Cool, cool. Well, stay safe, stay you.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day, night, whatever time
Yeah.
it is.